Rescue Op. Save the dinosaurs from an island that's about to explode. What could go wrong?
Hello, welcome to the Fallen Kingdom Minute, where we return to Jurassic World 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And in this episode we're discussing Minute 2 of Fallen Kingdom. But before we get to that, David, heading over to Jurassic Pedia once again, we have a article up here focusing on the June 2016 incident that we're seeing in the first part of Fallen Kingdom, the mercenaries on Nublar. And we do get a lot of this sort of stuff filled in later with Camp Cretaceous and that, who these guys are, what they're here for. This team going after the Indominus Marine 1 isn't the only faction on the island. We've also got, I can't remember if it's Marine or Air 2 or Land 2 or whatever, but they're going after Henry Rue's laptop in one of his labs. We get all the hijinks from that in Camp Cretaceous Season 3. So a good little bit of article here that sort of goes into what we're seeing in this opening sequence.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't got anything to add about the article?
No, really. I mean, we kind of covered a lot of it from last episode.
Yeah, so for a full play-by-play on what we get in the start of Fallen Kingdom here, head over to Jurassic-Pedia.com for this article and many more.
I think that we should allow our magnificent, glorious dinosaurs to be taken out by the volcano.
Dave, ready to get into Minute 2 of Fallen Kingdom?
I am.
Alright, Minute 2 of Fallen Kingdom opens with a second round of production logos, and ends with the submersible entering a landlocked lagoon. Wait a minute. We probably shouldn't go there. As the minute ends, the first minute ended, we got our final credit for Legacy Pictures and Perfect World Pictures, which I'm guessing Perfect World Pictures is Bayona's production company.
I'm not actually sure, but I would assume so.
Just since, really, here's the only change in the production team between Jurassic World and here. But we continue moving through the dark water, and we can hear a ping of a submarine sonar confirming that we are in fact underwater. And as the debris passes the camera, you can start to see a set of lights and a two-man submarine. I've googled, I've done everything. I can't find any information on this submarine at all. So obviously some sort of custom prop made for the film. I don't once believe that this submarine is actually underwater. We're watching CG stuff float past the screen here.
Though, would a submersible... I mean, it's not even really much of a submarine. It's like more of a submersible. Would it even have a sonar?
Well, that's why it's got a big bubble so you can see where you're going.
Exactly. It's like the primary use of sonar on a submarine.
Yeah, you don't have a windshield to be able to see out the front to know what's in front of you. It could possibly have been fitted because they are going to be looking for that Indominus skeleton underwater. Although, in saying that too, if you can pick up the Indominus skeleton underwater, you can probably also pick up the mosasaur swimming around. You're going to see a big green mass on your sonar screen, most likely. So it's that's a good little problematic thing there. Why the sonar? It does we get that sound and know that we are looking at a submarine here before it comes out of the murky darkness. So maybe just a sound effect here to show us that, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense at all.
My favorite submersible entrance is still Titanic, where we get the I think it's called the Elvin coming out of the darkness as it just keeps sinking lower and lower to the ocean floor.
But again, that shot too, you've got the submarine, the pinging, because you've got on those deep dive submersibles, you've got windows that are only 2 or 3 inches round. To look out, and you are using sonar to see where the wreck is because it's that black down there. And again, here they're doing this mission nighttime in a storm. The water's going to be churned up. Visibility is going to be extremely low. So again, maybe the sonar was put in after the fact for this mission. But at this early stage too, we can see 2 occupants wearing headsets, one black man, one white man, in a Hawaiian shirt. So we're supposed to be in Costa Rica, but we could also be in Hawaii here with the Hawaiian shirt as well. And it's not Bill Paxton. But as the sub passes a camera and its lights dimly shine on a seemingly massive underwater structure, and as they approach, we get a sudden line of bright light as the 2 solid objects split open in the middle and begin to open. And the lights and sound of that groaning underwater suggest a big underwater door, and that's when we cut to the surface. And one of my favourite shots in this film, straight up, is this nighttime shot looking out over the Mosasaur Lagoon gates, the sort of Jurassic theme design in these gates, even though they're sort of off out of the visitors area, and the abandoned hulk of Jurassic World in the background.
Yeah, interesting. I actually saw a concept art image of this of this shot earlier today, and originally those 2 towers there that flank either side of the doors were asymmetrical for some reason.
Okay.
I guess they ended up just going with them both being mirrored just for ease of animation and looks.
Yeah. Obviously a full CG shot. We do get a flash of lightning, and it does light up the area pretty nicely. A lot of destruction, buildings in ruins and that sort of thing. We do get a vehicle here. It's not a G-Wagon, it's not a 6x6 AMC, and it's not anything else we've seen. It's not a C10 maintenance truck. It seems to be I thought it was a Chev, but I think it's a Bronco looking.
I was just about to say, that kind of looks like a white Bronco.
Yeah, parked alongside the gates too.
The juice is loose.
We're going to cut to the mercenary technician in a minute beside the generator, but throughout this whole scene we've got these emergency sort of working floodlights, but they're all orange tinted. I don't know. We know from Camp Cretaceous that the setup was this team's here, access the lagoon, get the Indominus and get out. Wu's team was going to another spot. Do we know of any other teams doing anything else on the island that we haven't seen yet?
Not that I know of, though. Now that I think of it, they would have had to have restored power to this entire area. It's not like you can just restore power to the door alone. It all runs on a circuit, so they probably restored power to the gates and everything else running on that circuit. So any kind of construction lights they might have had around, building lights, stuff like that. Pretty much anything that's still running.
Yeah, and we'll get to that when we get to the tech with the generators next minute. But it's just weird because all these work lights, they all run off generators, so it's like there's been some operation on the island, whether it's these guys or something earlier. And because we know from Jurassic World, everything was LED lighting, and that's crisp, clear white light, and this is all sort of that amber, much like the Lost World, just that dull fluorescent lighting that's aged considerably. So I suppose we can talk about more when we get to Main Street, because it's there everywhere as well. It's just like there's been something else, some other operation here that we don't know about.
Yeah, but like I said, I mean, you can see lights along the wall that look like they would have been exterior lighting, and they're the same kind of color of light. So this is probably a workers' area that the public wouldn't have had access to.
Yeah, and you can clearly see too with this aerial shot the lights lighting up the water, and even the glow of the submarine underneath the water too, and some lighting off in Main Street, off to the side of the promenade near the Mosasaur amphitheatre, I'll call it, which we know where the generator tech and all that stuff set up in future minutes. So, but yeah, great. I just love the shot. Just the storm raging on. Again, here we are back in Costa Rica. It's raining, it's wet, there's a storm just devastating the island, and these guys decide to go in and do this mission right in the middle of it.
Something that you talked about earlier was how it's seemingly landlocked. submarine entering a seemingly landlocked lagoon. But if you look at the old maps of Isla Nublar on the computer screen, it does have this river system that goes almost to right where the lagoon is. And we can imagine that, say, Masrani dug out the river a little bit more to fit more water access to flow in and out of the lagoon. So you can justify the fact that this river system has always existed, and it just so happens that Masrani took advantage of it.
Yeah, I think and it's also too because all we see is this one shot. We don't see much beyond the gates. We only see a few hundred yards, where it looks like it opens out to the ocean, where, as you said, it could just be the start of the river system. And I think the biggest issue here is what we get on the map, where it clearly shows everything moved around a little bit. Because here, yes, if you use this off the original Jurassic World map, yes, of course, where the east dock and that is that rivers run inland to the Mosasaur Lagoon, and obviously they're going to want water access there. My bigger concern here is the fact that they're opening the gates to a supposedly enclosed ecosystem. Yes, they don't really care. The Mosasaur should be dead already. But having these gates being able to operate, that'd be like having Free Willy's tank open onto the Mississippi River. Just it'd be bad for everyone involved.
I imagine that it was probably for maintenance things, like if they had to put a larger boat into the water, it's not like they don't have to carry it all the way from like across the island by land and put it in the water like right there on Main Street. They can actually take it up the river.
Well, also too, just the construction of the lagoon. How early? Surely they would have had to have a viable mosasaur or some sort of specimen ready to go, so they knew that the lagoon would need to be built and that. So it's probably in there growing in its juvenile years while they're building the monorail pylons across the lagoon and the fences and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, you're going to be able to want to get barges in and out and that sort of stuff as well. So, but as we're sitting there above the surface, we get we can hear the siren blasting and the gates opening, and then we get the title on screen: Isla Nublar, 120 miles west of Costa Rica. I would have loved, and it should have had a title card here saying 6 months after the fall of Jurassic World or something, just so we get an idea of timing, because it's not.
Yeah.
It's only afterwards Colin saying on Twitter or whatever else, oh well, this is 6 months later, and then we jump 4 years at the end of this scene. It's we needed it back then because it was pretty confusing.
Especially the way the scene plays out, where they assume that anything there's would have been dead by then. And it's like, well, after 4 years, yeah, you can be pretty assured of that. But after 6 months,
Yeah, exactly. And you sort of look at this scene, or as we go through this scene, thinking, right, it's been 4 years later. You sort of, again, some of the concept art for Main Street, and we're going to see it more when we come back, where it actually is 4 years later, and how decimated buildings and that are on par with what we see of the worker village and that in the Lost World. Just what 4 years of abandonment does on an island like this. Here we don't sort of have, even in the flash of lightning for this shot and CG, but there's a lot of green around the fallen buildings already. When we get to Main Street, we've still got upturned cars and that, but nothing's really devastated.
Jungle's always ready to return.
Yes. Really, the only thing that wouldn't make you believe this could or should be 4 years later when the film's set is the fact that they're going to get the DNA from the Indominus, and then we're going to cut, and a week later we've got the Indoraptor already fully grown or grown up, where we know Wu needed this piece of Indominus to get that project going. Which is why we need the time jump to start with, and for Owen and Claire to grow apart again, just to come back together. So, as we mentioned at the start too, Camp Cretaceous season 3 fills in a lot of what's going on here. This is a Mills operation to secure Henry's laptop from the lab, and the other team to get DNA from the Indominus. We should mention this is an InGen. As far as InGen's concerned, they don't exist anymore. There's no... We'll keep an eye out as we go further through the film, but I'm pretty sure InGen, as Hoskins said, was in Chapter 11 as soon as the Jurassic World incident occurred. We don't know. Do we get what Lockwood's company's called? That Mills
I
is.
don't even know if he has a company, really. It seemed to me more that he was just rich to begin with and been privately financing.
I know Mills is spending his money.
Yeah.
He hired Mills to spend his money, put it to where good cause and that, but sure, yeah. Obviously, there must be some shell corporations that if he's doing all this stuff on the back, in the background, but I guess it's alluded to, and again, when we get there, we'll get there, that the story between Hammond and Lockwood, their partnership existed before InGen's creation in the lab under Lockwood Manor, and we know Lockwood and his daughter went to Jurassic Park during construction, but I think by then they'd probably already been on the outs. I suppose we'll get more to that when we get to the mansion, because there's a lot of backstory that we just never got, which is a shame. And I don't know how, without sort of more novels or something, how you'd get that backstory told. But as the minute ends, the submersible passes through the gates and enters the lagoon. And as you said, there is something lurking in there that they do not think is still alive. We'll get more of that next minute. Dave, anything else on minute 2 you want to discuss before we go for the day?
No, I think we're good.